Hey everyone, this is Sandip back with another video. And today we are going to talk about another easy sorting algorithm for interviews, and that is selection sort. In the previous video, I talked about bubble sort. Today we are going to talk about selection sort. So let's move on. So the prerequisite, or you should know, I mean, if you want to write a selection sort, so obviously you should know this, and I assume you know this because these are really basics of programming. You should know how to loop through an array. You should know how to comparing items, two items to comparing two items with each other, and you should know how to swap items or swap elements. So what is selection sort? Selection sort is similar to bubble sort. So in bubble sort, we take the element and we bubble it up, right? Largest element. Basically, we take the largest element and we bubble it up to the end of the array. We do the exact opposite of that in case of selection sort. So we take the element and basically we loop through the array. We find the smallest element. Here we find the smallest element and we move that element to the beginning. Now this beginning is, a bit tricky. I'll tell you like how actually it works. And we don't swap the elements until we find the smallest element in each pass. Now this is important. In case of bubble sort, we do the comparison, we swap. We do the comparison, we swap. But here we do the comparison to find out the smallest element, but we don't swap until we have compared all the elements in the array. So we will write it down. When I'm going to write the code, right, you're going to understand pretty easily. So before move on, I mean, this is a pseudocode, but better, I'll show you something really interesting. I found out a very good website. So this is visualalgo.net. I don't know the pronunciation of this, but here we have nice sorting algorithms, right? So maybe I'll show you, right? So we want to learn selection sorts, just click on selection sort. So this is a sorted array we have, right? And here we are going to understand the algorithm, the logic, the pseudocode of the selection sort. So somehow, I'm just going to click on sort. It's going to start running. I'm going to pause it. Okay, I'll go back to the previous step back. Basically we want to start from the beginning actually. So let's go back to the beginning. Okay, and so this is how selection sort works. So we pick the first element. So in this case we have 15 as the first element, right? So I'll move on. So we have picked the first element, that is 15. We'll compare it with the next element, that is 46. So we do the comparison. If the next element is smaller than the first element which we are comparing, right? So or let's do this way, this is the first. Let's consider first element is the smallest element, and we do the comparison of next element with this current smallest element. So we check whether 46 is less than 15. No. So we move on. We compare 30 with 15. Is 30 less than 15? No. So let's move on. We will move on until we have that condition true, right? Now we will compare 11 with 15, and we know that 11 is less than 15. So 11 will become the new minimum or the new smallest element. So you'll see the red, that color came here. Now again, we'll continue the comparison with this new minimum element. So initially we had 15 as a smallest element in the array. Consider that. Now we found 11 as the smallest element in the array, and we'll continue the comparisons. We'll compare it with 20. Okay, 20 is not small, 14 not small, 41 not small, 5 is smaller than 11. So we'll again makes 5 as the smallest element in the array. See, we are not doing any swapping, right? So in case of bubble sort, we did the swap, but here we are not doing any swap. I'm just setting the new minimum element as the new element. So 5 will become the new minimum or smallest element. You see that the color is red. I'll do the comparison again. Let's do the same activity again. We'll compare it with 10. Okay, obviously 10 is not less than 5. 26 is also not less than 5. 35 is also not less than 5. But 1 is less than 5. So again, 1 will become the new smallest element. Let's do the last comparison. And now finally, once we have gone through the entire array, this is a time where we do the swap. So we'll do the swap of 1 with 15. See that? Now we'll move on to the next element, that is 46. So 46 is our new. So we start at 0. Then we move to 1, 2, 3, 4 until, end of the array. So let's do one more pass. I'll compare 46, 30. Okay, now 30 is a new minimum element or new smallest element in the array. Then 49, 11 is going to become the new min. In this case, 14, 41, 5 is going to become the new minimum element or smallest element. Again, I'll do the comparison now 1. Again, now 1 is going to become the smallest element and we'll do the swap of 1 with 46. See that? Swap. So this is how we keep on going, right? We keep on going. I'll just run through it and we'll do the swapping and you will have the array sorted on the left hand side with all the smallest element. Right? So this is how the selection sort work. I will go back to my slides now. So this is the pseudocode, right? So we are going to have two loops here. One will be the outer loop and there will be the inner loop. And we need to we'll start with the first element. We'll set that element as a minimum or a smallest element in the array. Then we will run an inner loop where, we'll do the comparison of that element which we have selected as a minimum. And we'll compare with each element. If we see that element, if it is a small, then we set that as a new minimum element and we do it for the entire array, one pass, two pass, three pass, something like that, and we swap at the end once we have reached the end of the array. So this is a pseudocode. If you want to learn it, if you want to just keep into your mind, but I believe remembering the steps, this is important. It's similar to bubble sort, but we loop to find the smallest element and move it to the beginning. We don't swap the element until we find the smallest element in each pass. So this is important for me. If I remember this, I know how to solve selection sort. So I have written it down into nice steps. So I've broken it down into task and we are going to run through this task and we are going to write all of this task into code and that way, it will become really easy. So let's jump into the coding. That's the important part of this video. So let's do that. Okay, so let's jump into coding and what I did, actually have copied all the tasks, small tasks. So we are going to run through this selection sort, we are going to write it down into smaller tasks and that's going to help you understand even if you're a beginner, and if you struggle with writing algorithms or writing the logic. These small tasks are going to help you write the selections of sort uh, pretty easily. I mean, it should be a cakewalk for you. So first of all, let's write a function. So we'll go with the function definition. I'm going to give it the name of selection underscore sort. And obviously we are going to sort an array of numbers. I'm taking the example of numbers only. So that's what we are going to sort. And I'm going to call this function selection sort. Let's pass some array to it. Maybe I'll go with numbers like 7, then 3, then how about 4? Let's take 1 and let's take 2 also. 7, 3, 4, 1, 2. So this is the array I want to sort and I'm going to do the console.log just to see whether the array is sorted or not. So this is the array I'm passing as an input to my selection sort function. And here I'm going to straight away return the array because the sorted array, obviously we are not going to return the same array. We'll sort it down by using our tasks, right? So I'm going to cut my task from here and I'll move it into my code. So let's first do task 1 here and let's see what we need to do. So I'll create some space here. Okay, so we're calling selection sort with this array. Run an outer loop through an array, say I. Good. We'll start with the loop. So let's start with the for loop that will be I, right? And we need to run through the array dot le length basically -1, right? So we need to run our first loop. So we need to loop through. So we need to run an outer loop for all the elements in the array, right? So that way, I'm looping through 7, 3, 4, 1, 2, something like that. Okay, so that is a step 1, task 1, run an outer loop through an array, say I. I'm doing that. Next, I'm going to cut this task or a step, whatever you call it, and I'm going to paste it here. This will come inside. So pick the I element. Okay, so initially I is going to be 0. So we are going to pick that element. So we are going to pick something like this, maybe array of I. We're going to pick array of I. as the smallest element. So we'll start with, the first element as the smallest element. That's what, happening in that animation which I have shown you, right? So this will be the smallest element. But we are not going to pick the smallest element because we are not interested in the smallest element. We are actually interested, but we are interested in the index of the smallest element. You remember we need to do the swap, right? And that for that swapping, we need that index, that minimum index. We obviously need an element, but we need the index of that minimum element. So I'll create a variable here, say current, I'll name it current minimum index. So currently whatever minimum index is there, so I'll start with 0 first, right? So I will be 0, right? So pick the I element as the smallest element. So I'm picking the index basically. Now to compare if x, now what we need to do actually. So I have picked up 7 first, right? So this loop is going to run, okay? Let's write down here also. So I'm passing this. So I'm calling this function, right? Something like this. So now next what is going to happen? Now I'm running the I loop, right? So I will start at 0. Okay. And what I'm doing basically is I'm picking the 7, right? So I'm picking 7 and now I need to compare 7 with 3. Then I need to compare with 4. Then I need to compare. So 7 with 3, first of all, I'll do the comparison, right? So that's what I need to do. So this is the index. So currently I'll consider 7 as the minimum element or minimum index. Now I need to run another loop, right? So to compare if x is smaller than the other elements, will need an inner loop, right? Because I need to compare all of these items. So let me straight away run the inner loop. So I'll say for loop, I'll say j, and this will run till array.length. So array.length. Okay, so I'm running the inner loop. So let's copy and paste this task number 3 from here, inner loop. And I have written down something really important here. So task 3 is run an inner loop through an array, say j, starting I plus 1. Now, what is the reason why I'm saying j starting at I plus 1? What is the reason behind that? Because I don't want to compare 7 with 7, right? That will be a useless comparison. I need to do the comparison of 3 with the 7, right? That's why, I'm running the inner loop where now I'm going to pick 3. Okay, so I'm going to pick 3. I'm going to compare that with 7. Okay, that's why, I'm starting this loop with I plus 1. Next, let's move on to the next task where T3 is run an inner loop. This is done. So I'm just going to remove it from here. That will help. So let's pick up T4. So I'm just going to cut it and I'm going to paste it here. T4, compare X with next item in an array, say Y. Now what is X and Y? So we have picked I element, say X. Here I have written X. So we are going to compare X with the next item in an array, say Y. Basically, I'm going to do the comparison of Y and X. So I'm going to pick this 3. So I'll say, maybe I'll write it down, compare Y. So Y is nothing but with the, or I'll keep it like that only, but I'll explain it to you. So I'll do the comparison. I'll pick 3. So the array of J. Okay. So I'm going to pick array of J. And I'll see whether array of J is less than array of I. Right? This is what I need to do basically. I need to pick array of J and I need to compare with array of I. But this is not the real comparison, right? I need to always compare this element with the current minimum, right? So I'll pick up this current minimum index here. So I'll do the comparison of 3 with the current minimum index element, that is 7. So let's do that. And I'll see if this element, you remember that animation, right? We always take the next element. This is our minimum element, right? And we compare with the minimum element, right? So now 3, I'm going to compare with 7. I'm going to check whether 3 is less than 7. And if it is yes, I don't need to swap the items. That is really important. I just need to change my current minimum index to this one. So that is the next step. So let me just cut from here. See, we are almost there. So I'm going to paste it here. Task 5 is if y is smaller than x, make y as the new smallest. and we are going to use the index, not the actual element. So current minimum index is then going to become j, because what is happening here, right? We are comparing whether 3 is less than 7. If it is yes, I know 3 is less than 7, so our current minimum index is going to become 1. This one, right? Now the 3 is our new current minimum index. And again, the loop is going to run. We are going to compare 4 with 3. Obviously, 4 is not less than 3, so this is not going to change. So I'll just copy and paste this one. So we need to write j also here. So let's do j. Initially, j will start at 1, right? And we are comparing this. I'm just going to copy this. Again, we'll do, now j will become 2 here because incremented, right? So now we'll compare 4 with 3, the previous element, right? That's what we are doing, because current minimum index is 3 now. I mean, this element's index. So now with current minimum, so we will not do the changes in current minimum index. Next, again, we'll move on. I'll copy this one now. Now j will become 3, right? Now j has become 3, and we are comparing, right, whether 3 is less than array.length. What is the array of array.length? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Obviously 3 is less than 5. So again, we'll pick 1 this time, because this is 0, 1, 2, 3. So 1, we'll compare it with 4. So 1 is less than 4. We'll do the comparison. Yes. Now 1 is less than 4. That's why we'll change the current minimum index to j. So now the current minimum index is going to become 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. Again, we'll run the loop, inner loop. You see, I is 0. I mean, we're still yet to finish the inner loop, right? So now j will become 4, and 4 is less than 5, right? So we'll do the comparison of 2 with 1 now. 2 and 1. So obviously 2 is not less than 1, so we'll stay with this. So now we found the smallest element, that is 1, in the first pass, this one, right? Now, this is how it is running. Finally, we need to do the swap, right? So let's pick up this task, the final task, and let's do the swap. And we'll do the swap at the end of the array, right? At the end of the loop, right? This outer loop, because this loop is running just to find out the smallest element in one pass, then the next pass, then the next pass, something like that. And at the end of the inner loop, we're going to swap x with the index of I element. So first of all, again, I need to use that strategy of temp, So I'm going to create a temp variable where I'm going to keep array of I, because we need to swap the element with array of I, right? So const, I need to write const actually. So temp. So I'm moving my array of I, that is my first, or maybe I need to use the current minimum index. No, I'll go with array of I, because whatever is the I value, right, there I need to do the swapping, right? So I started with 7. I found 1 as the smallest element, so I need to swap 7 and 1, right? So I'll keep that. So I'm moving my 7 into some temporary location. Then I'm going to swap array of I with the current minimum index, and that is 3 in my first pass, right? So I'm going to say array of current min index. So I'm doing the swapping of 1 with 7. And finally, array of I, okay, array of current min index actually. There I'm going to move my array of I, or temp, because I have replaced already array of I, right? So I'm picking my, so basically I'm doing the swapping, right? 7, first of all, I'm moving into temporary location. I'm taking 1 and moving at 7, and 7 I'm moving at the position of 1. This is what this code is actually doing. And if we run through this code, because we are done with all the tasks, right? You're done with the selection sort. Pretty easy, right? So if you follow all of these steps, now let's run through it. Let's see if it gives us the correct result, right? So I'm going to run and see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. We have the sorted array. So we're looping through the array element by element. First, we started with 7, right? We did a comparison. We found 1 as the smallest element. So how this is happening, actually, I'll show you. So I'm going to keep this part, okay? And again, I'll take the array as a input first. So we'll start with this, right? So in the first pass, we found 1 as the smallest element, right? So I'm going to just copy. So we did a swap of 1 with 7. So 1 is going to come here and 7 is going to go here. Something like this. This is the first pass. Now 1 is already sorted, right? Now I need to move into the next element, that is 3. This is what is happening, right? So every time in the inner loop, what is happening, I'm showing you, right? So we'll take the 3, 3, 4, 7, 2. Now the 2 is the smallest element, right? So we swap 2 with 3. So 2 will come here and 3 will go here because that is the smallest element, right? Next, again, I'm going to copy and paste this one. Now 1 and 2 is sorted, right? Now we will start with 4. We'll do the comparison. If 7 is less than 4, no. If 3 is less than 4, yes. So this is a new minimum index, right? So we'll swap 4 with 3, right? So 3 will come here and 4 will go here. And in the last pass of I, here again we'll start at 7, we'll compare with 4. Obviously 4 is less than 7, so it will go here and 7 will come here. So this is what is happening behind the scene. I have shown you that animation also, and that, I mean, this is a code for that particular animation, basically pretty easy. I mean, if you follow task by task, I'm going to upload all of this task, whatever I was showing you actually. So I'll switch my window to probably this post, right? And I need to run through it. So I'm going to post all of this task, all of these steps on the Instagram page. The link is in the description. You can go there and you can just run through all of this task. Let's finally talk about the big O of our selection sort. So it's obviously, I mean, in any case, because we have two outer and inner loop, it's going to be n square in all the cases, worst, average, or best. Even if we talk about the best complexity, it will be n square, and the space complexity is pretty easy. It's not taking not creating a lot of variables. So I don't see it's taking a lot of space. So it will be 1. So I think that's it for the selection sort, but I would suggest, just go to this site, the selection sort site, right? And just play through it. That's what I did. That's what I have written inside that, inside my, actually in my code, right? If I switch back to my code, where is that? Okay, here. So this is selection sort. So follow these steps, follow this task, step by step, and you should have the selection sort written in front of you pretty easily. So I hope this video is helpful. I mean, why we are learning all of this sort, because this comes up in an interview. We already have a sorting algorithm present there. We have the sort function in JavaScript, but still you should know how the sort actually works behind the scene. And there are different ways of sorting the data. That's why, I wanted to cover this, because in an interview, there is a possibility an interviewer can ask you about the selection sort and write the algorithm for that. With that, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to see you in the next video. Until then, you take care. Goodbye. And thanks for watching the video.